Okay, so today we're doing a new machine with a new problem. This time it's going to be the Brother Mfc-8910dw. This machine comes in a few different models. You've got the Mfc-8910, the 8950, I think the HL5450. Anyway, it's these black coloured Brother machines that use the DR3325 series of drum unit, and the grey TN3310, 3340, 3360 printer cartridge. This particular customer is using a cheap online non-genuine cartridge. No doubt they paid $15–20 for it. The genuine cartridge costs Australian about $260, and now this particular customer is paying the price for buying such a crappy cartridge. So we'll show you what this customer's machine is doing. And I'll show you why it happens. So we'll just let it warm up and get ready. Okay, so menu, down to printer, down to print options, down to test print. Now this particular problem shows up in two different fashions. You've got the classic paper jamming, where the paper comes halfway out and stops, and this is what this one has done, so it's jammed inside. Now I did get a full printout out of it just before I started the video. I did a full test print there, so grab the document out. There's the paper jammed halfway through. It's gotten about 3 centimeters into the fuser and it's stalled. So if we have a look at the print, this is actually quite lucky this happened. So if we have a look, you'll see the print quality is perfect after it goes through the drum for development, but the moment the print hits the fuser unit, so you can see here, the print quality is all nice and sharp, but it's not fused, it's not melted onto the paper by the fuser unit. As soon as it hits the fuser unit, it melts it, but it goes all fuzzy, and it looks like it's dragging. You've got all these drag marks, so it's perfectly fused onto the paper, but it's blurry as, and you can see the lines here where you got sort of a drag action going on. So why does this happen? This happens because of these shitty toners. They're great, they hook you in. You use 3, possibly 4 of them in your printer. You've done a grand total of 30,000 pages of printing in your office, and then this starts happening, paper jamming, and your prints go all fuzzy. So here's one we got out earlier, and you can see it's all fuzzy, not fused nicely, and generally just looks pretty crappy. So what happens? In these really cheap toner cartridges, if you've watched any of my other videos, it all comes down to the toner powder. This toner powder is not the same stuff as the genuine toner powder. That applies to these really cheap cartridges. You can get aftermarket cartridges that do have the correct toner powder in them. We manufacture ourselves printer cartridges that have the correct powder in them, but of course they're very more expensive than these $15–20 cartridges. So ours are about $100 cheaper than the genuine. They will work, they won't cause this issue with the printer, and it all comes down to the powder. The powder that's used in these cartridges is called MPT toner, or mechanically produced toner. The toner powder that's used in the genuine is called CPT toner powder, chemically produced toner powder. If you look at the toner under a microscope, it looks like tiny little ball bearings. That's in the genuine. Whereas the stuff that's in these, it's not a ball bearing shape. It's jagged, it's square, it's any random shape, and as a result, toner spits out of here. It spits through here. It eventually gets dragged out the opposite side of the drum. It gets dragged through to the fuser unit inside. It creates, you get, if you were to look at this machine with the camera inside, I'll get around to doing it one day, you'll see there's a mist of toner powder floating around, and that eventually gets sucked through the machine into the fuser unit at the back, and I'll show you a little bit later what happens when that mist of toner gets dragged through to the back of the machine. Okay, so we're going to start pulling it apart. I'll just put all the important stuff back together. The drum is sensitive to light. That's how laser printing works, so you do not want to leave this drum unit outside of the machine any longer than about 10 to 15 minutes. You definitely do not want to get it into direct sunlight. If you put it in direct sunlight, you will ruin it instantly and you'll have to go and buy a new drum. So I'll put that back inside the machine for now. I'll turn the machine around and we'll start pulling it apart. Okay, so we're going to unplug the machine. Very important, unplug it before you do any work on it. Then we want to pull out the duplex unit. This duplex unit, these machines have an inherent issue, if you haven't found out yet, where the paper tray can be kicked out through a paper jam occurring. So the machine will have a paper jam. You'll pull the paper jam out, but you won't notice it because you're only looking at the machine from the front. The machine will kick this duplex unit out just through normal printing. It'll be sitting out this far. Your machine will then stop duplexing properly, but it will still do single-sided page printing properly, but the machine will do the printing very, very slowly. So if you ever notice that you're doing printing on one of these machines and the printing has slowed down, so instead of its rapid pace of pushing out prints, it starts doing it like a 1990s printer where it does it really, really slowly, then it's because this thing has come out. It took us forever to find out with one customer what their problem was. They were complaining that the printer was too slow 3 weeks after we installed it on the premises, and then it turned out the whole cause of the printer running slow was because that had come out. You push it back in and your printer starts printing really quick again. So first thing we're going to do is pull this out. Pull the back door down. Oh, there's paper jam already in there. Let's have a look. Yep, it's all nice and blurry. Nice and smeary, all nice and fuzzy, unfocused. And it's because of the fuser unit. So what we're going to do is, with the door down, we will take this off first. You simply push here, push there, that one comes out. Push here, push there, that one comes out. Even the back door comes off. So that off, the inner door comes out. Then we've got to push this one down, that one down maybe. Take the inner door off, and this leads us to the fuser unit. So in these machines, they're a lot like Hewlett-Packard and Canon machines. They've introduced this thin Teflon flexible film. You can see me there pushing on it, it flexes. Now, I really don't like this style of fuser unit. On a scale of 1 to 10, they're about a 9 to fix. Just simply because the technology barely works. It's not as reliable as, say, one rubber roller and one solid steel roller coated in Teflon. These films constantly give issues with being punctured, so if a staple or a paperclip inadvertently goes through the machine, especially if you're an environmentally conscious type person where you like to use reuse paper, recycled paper. I see it all the time. You go to some hippie's place, they're reusing paper and they've put a staple, they haven't checked the paper, there's been a staple on the paper that's, you know, stapled onto the paper, and of course it's gone through and punctured this and cost them $280 in repairs. There's not really an environmental advantage there. So yeah, so what we've got to do is we've got to pull this fuser unit out, get to this film, and I'll show you what's happened inside as a result of using the crappy toners. So first thing we've got to do is we have to take this screw out here and take this cover off, and then we're going to move on and take this screw out here. So once again, we'll set everything aside. This cover just comes up and out. So I'll put it with that screw, that cover. Now, if you go into your machine and you notice that this spring is missing, this spring is very important. This particular spring, what it does is it goes up and electrically it connects to the fuser film. The fuser film is like stainless steel or tungsten on the inside. So what this does, this spring carries, see, when you have a rotating belt of any kind, it creates static electricity, and with these machines pumping out prints at such a rapid pace, in particular weather conditions, this particular film here can create a 1000-volt charge just simply because it's separating electrons, because it's traveling at such a high speed. What this spring does is it carries the charge that can be created by this fuser film back down to the body, and it earths it out. Now, if you open the back of your printer and you find that this spring is missing, you know that your machine has had another printer technician in there, and he's looked at this and gone, well, what the hell is this? We don't need this. And he hasn't put it back in. This particular spring is very, very important. I have seen machines that have been worked on by other printer technicians where this spring hasn't been put on, and what has happened is, in particular dry, low humidity conditions, it's fried the motherboard. It's created such a large electrical charge that it's just taken out the EEPROM on the main board, and the customers had to throw the machine away or get the main board replaced. And it's simply because that particular part is very, very important. So we just remove this now, so you just lift it up. It hooks around the pressure spring that's in here. So it hooks in there like so, and then it ties in to the body down here. So I'll put that over there. Okay, so next we're going to take off this cover here. There is a pressure release lever here. So when you pull the rear door down, this chunk on here pushes on this, and then this pushes over here onto the release lever. So as I'm pushing, you can see the release lever go up and down, and then what that does in turn releases the fuser film from the lower roller. So if I push this, you'll see the fuser film go up and down. See it there? So pushing, and the film's going up and down and releasing from the lower roller. So this, we take this cover off, so we take this screw out here and move on to the next part. And the joys of fixing printers one-handed. Chuck that over there. Now that this is off, you can see the lever and the mechanism. So that pushes up like that, and it releases the pull down pressure plate. So this particular part is very easy to break when you're pulling it out. So to get it out, you've got to lift it up, and there is a latch in here that locks behind the body, and it slides on the inside to keep it locked in, so you can't get it out. So what I recommend doing is, if you get a good sturdy screwdriver, you push it in here, you push that up, and then with the screwdriver pushing it up, you grab it, lift it up, and simply unhook it, and it comes out like so. Now, it's possible that when you pull this out, you may actually end up breaking this bit off. It's okay, it's not so much of a drama. If you do break it, you just simply place it back in, put the black plastic cover over it, and that will hold it into position. All this piece is there to do is to provide the release mechanism. So you can, even if you break it, and you can actually get away with not having it in there, you just got to remember that when you have a paper jam, it's going to be really difficult getting the paper out because there's no pressure being released. Okay, so the next is we're going to take off this screw here, and that will be the fuser unit released mechanically from the body. Alright, so next we're going to take the 240 volt or 110 volt cables off. Depends on where you live, really. I think it may actually not be the full mains voltage on it, it could be a regulated voltage. So you just simply got to push the clip in, and that comes out like so. Be sure you don't lose this back down in the body, just make sure it stays there, because if you lose that bit, it's a real pain in the ass to get to it through taking this cover off. Alright, now we'll move on to the sensors. So now, a lot of people in my previous video about the Brother 9140 and 9330, pulling these off, they've broken the connection. You just simply unhook it underneath. Now this applies to all circuit boards. It doesn't matter whether it's a TV, mobile phone. Getting these off is really easy when you know what you're doing. So to get these off from the circuit board underneath, this is what you do. You grab both leads. So we have both leads, you're grabbing them like this, and you're pulling. And it simply comes out. Now, in previous videos where I haven't shown how to do this, people have stuffed it up. They've gone and grabbed one lead and pulled on it with one lead, and of course if you pull with one lead, you're only going to put pressure on the right hand side of the plug. The left hand side is going to stay locked in, and you're just going to pull the one lead straight out of the plug and it's going to be stuffed. So to get these out, this applies to every piece of electronic equipment that uses these. Grab both leads and pull. And when you're putting them back in, you simply push the plug in and push behind it and it's in. So pull, done. Same with the little one. Grab both leads, you put the same amount of pressure onto both leads and pull. Easy. Okay, so we pull all that out, unhook it. Okay, now the fuser unit is ready to come out. So all you got to do is just grab the bottom and the whole thing just falls out. So you can see there's a bit of toner dust from these really shit house toners. Just clean it up with a rag and you're good to go. If you've got access to an air compressor, you want to blow the whole machine out, pull the drum unit and the toner cartridge out of the machine, pull the paper tray out, get your air compressor and just blow the inner guts out completely. So we'll just pause the video and then we'll set up and we'll start working on this part.